is the Rosetta Stone. It was the key to understanding Egyptian hieroglyphics, and it is one of the most precious and valuable treasures of the British Museum. No one in the modern age had a clue about how Egyptian writing worked. The most popular idea was that they were purely ideographic, with each drawing representing a concept.
The Rosetta Stone is a stela that was probably set up in a temple. The text inscribed on it is a priestly decree that was issued on the 27th of March. You probably know that the Rosetta Stone helped us to decipher ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, but the Rosetta Stone is a modern name. The ancient Egyptians, of course, would not have called it like this. They would probably have just called it a decree.
For many years, the Rosetta Stone was simply seen as a translation tool. It was the stone that helped scholars finally understand ancient Egyptian writing. By comparing the 3 scripts carved on it, experts were able to decode a language that had been a mystery for centuries.
Have you seen the new scans where they've found new petroglyphs?
Yeah. Man, there's gonna be so much like that that's gonna be found. People are gonna be able to.
What is all that stuff?
But recently, the stone was scanned again using modern AI technology, and the results surprised many researchers. So, what does the ancient text really mean? So stay with this story until the end, because the most surprising discoveries are still ahead. And if you enjoy learning about mysterious discoveries like this, subscribe to our channel for more videos.
The wording of the Rosetta Stone gives us an invaluable insight into how the Ptolemies ruled Egypt. But another great part of this object's story is how it was found.
Rosetta Stone discovery. In 1799, during the Egyptian campaign of Napoleon Bonaparte, an ordinary moment of construction work unexpectedly led to one of the most important discoveries in history. French soldiers traveling with Napoleon were busy building defensive forts in Egypt. Near the town of Rashid, known to Europeans as Rosetta, a group of soldiers began digging in the ground. They were not searching for history or ancient treasures. Their simple goal was to find strong stones that could be used to reinforce the walls of a fortress. But as they dug deeper into the soil, their tools struck something unusual. Hidden beneath the ground was a dark, heavy slab of stone. When they pulled it out, they immediately noticed that this was no ordinary rock. It was a thick piece of black granodiorite, carefully carved and polished. Strange markings covered its surface. At first glance, it looked like an old inscription from the distant past. But when the soldiers looked more closely, they realized something remarkable. The stone did not contain just one set of writings. It contained the same message written 3 different times in 3 different scripts. At the top were the beautiful and mysterious symbols of Egyptian hieroglyphs. In the middle was a flowing script known as demotic, the everyday writing used in ancient Egypt. At the bottom was a long section written in Greek. At that time, Greek was a language scholars could already read and understand. However, both hieroglyphs and demotic remained a complete mystery. No one in the modern world knew how to read them. This is where the true importance of the stone began to appear. Because the same message appeared in 3 scripts, historians finally had something they had never had before: a direct comparison. By studying the Greek text, scholars hoped they could slowly unlock the meaning of the other writings. What began as a random discovery during construction soon became the key to unlocking the lost language of ancient Egypt. The stone later became known as the famous Rosetta Stone. Before the Rosetta Stone was discovered, the hieroglyphic writing of ancient Egypt had been a mystery to the world for centuries.
Astronomical references, a moon, a star, various symbols, which even could be symbolized as a wristwatch, technology being used 6,000 years ago.
Travelers and scholars could see the strange symbols carved into temple walls, painted inside tombs, and engraved on huge monuments. These images fascinated everyone who saw them, but no one could understand them. From a distance, the carvings looked like a collection of beautiful pictures: birds, animals, human figures, strange shapes, and sacred objects. Many people believed they were simply decorative art created by ancient craftsmen to make temples and tombs look impressive. Others believed the symbols were magical signs used only for religious rituals. Some scholars even suggested they might represent star patterns or mythical stories. But no one had real proof. Without a way to read them, historians could only guess. In truth, those symbols were the written voice of an entire civilization. the walls of temples recorded religious beliefs. All of this information had been preserved in stone for thousands of years, yet it remained completely silent, like a book that existed but could not be read because no one understood its language. If the decree was so ordinary, why was it written in 3 different scripts? Does Rosetta Stone have any political message? Let's take a closer look.
And now I can turn it around and have a look at the writing that's been hiding underneath.
So no one's seen that writing for 4,000 or 5,000 years?
Yeah, the only person that's seen it previously is the one who wrote it.
Ancient political propaganda. For many years, scholars tried to solve the mystery, but every attempt failed. Hieroglyphs continued to be seen as beautiful and impressive, but impossible to understand. It was like standing in front of a locked door without having the key. Then, in 1822, a major breakthrough finally came. A young French scholar named Jean-François Champollion became determined to solve the puzzle. He did not have a magical method, but he had patience, intelligence, and an important clue: the Rosetta Stone itself. Champollion began by carefully studying the Greek section, since Greek was already known. He then compared the Greek text with the hieroglyphs carved above it. The work was slow and extremely difficult. One of the biggest clues came from royal names. When Champollion looked at the Greek text, he noticed the names of kings. Then he searched for repeating groups of symbols in the hieroglyphic section that appeared in the same positions. Names such as those of Egyptian rulers provided a pattern. Gradually, something incredible became clear. The hieroglyphs were not just pictures or mysterious symbols. Many of them actually represented sounds. In other words, hieroglyphs were part of a real language. This realization changed everything. Once that door opened, scholars could finally begin reading the ancient writings of Egypt. People believed that when the Rosetta Stone was fully translated, it would reveal some great hidden secret, perhaps lost knowledge, sacred teachings, or mysterious wisdom from the ancient world. But when the full message was finally understood, the truth turned out to be far simpler and more ordinary than anyone expected. In reality, the Rosetta Stone was not some magical or mysterious document. It was simply a royal decree issued in 196 BC during the rule of the young Egyptian king Ptolemy V. The text mainly praised the king, listed some of his achievements, and most importantly announced tax exemptions and special privileges for the priests. At the time, this was a common form of political propaganda. The king wanted to strengthen his reputation and gain the support of powerful religious institutions. In simple terms, it was an official government document related to power and administration. Each script served a different group of people. Hieroglyphics were used mainly for religious and royal writings. Demotic was the everyday writing used by ordinary people and government officials. Greek was the language spoken by the ruling class in Egypt at that time. Because of this, the same message could reach everyone: priests, common citizens, and foreign rulers. The decree was not meant for just one group. It was designed so that every level of society could understand it. Writing the message in 3 scripts was not only practical, but also a way to strengthen authority. It made the decree appear more official and legitimate. Carving the message into stone also had an important purpose. In the ancient world, stone was used to make messages last. Paper could burn and cloth could rot, but stone could survive for centuries. So when rulers or religious leaders carved words into stone, they were not only speaking to the people of their own time, they were also sending a message to future generations. However, in the past few years, a major shift has taken place. What role did AI play? Did they help to read and understand the message? Let's take a closer look.
The question very few people ask, though: what's actually on the Rosetta Stone? What is written here? What mysteries of ancient Egyptian life? It's about a royal cult being granted certain favors, including tax exemption.
AI and ancient decoding. Understanding ancient civilizations is no longer a task done only by humans. Today, artificial intelligence, AI, has also become an important tool in this work. In the past, historians and language experts often spent many years trying to understand just a few ancient symbols. Now, computers can study large amounts of data and find patterns that people might miss, sometimes in only a few hours. A good example of this is the cuneiform tablets of Mesopotamia. These are clay tablets that are thousands of years old and covered with small, nail-shaped marks. Many of these tablets are damaged or broken, and the languages written on them are sometimes incomplete. Because of this, they were extremely difficult for researchers to read. When scientists trained AI systems using digital images of these tablets, the machines began to notice patterns among the broken pieces. Where humans might have spent years trying to guess missing words, the machines could quickly suggest possible words and sentences by studying the patterns in the language. A similar method was used to study the Dead Sea Scrolls found in Israel.
They've been translated, and they tell exciting stories about how gods intermingled with human beings and actually had a hand in the creation of human beings.
For a long time, some experts believed certain sections were written by only one person. However, AI detected small differences in handwriting that humans had not noticed. These differences suggested that several different writers may have worked on the scrolls. AI has also helped researchers study ancient Mayan writing. Many Mayan glyphs are damaged, faded, or incomplete. By studying how often symbols appear and the order in which they are used, AI was able to find new connections that had not been recognized before. One of AI's greatest strengths is that it does not get tired. It does not rely on guesses, emotions, or assumptions. Instead, it simply studies the data carefully. It examines every symbol, every gap, every repeated mark. It can measure how often a symbol appears, where it appears, and what symbols come before or after it. If a piece of text is broken or missing, the system can even suggest possible words based on patterns found in the language. In other words, AI does more than just read ancient writing. It tries to understand how the language is structured. It studies how symbols repeat, how words connect, and where unusual patterns appear. Because of this, AI has become a powerful new tool for decoding ancient texts. When the Rosetta Stone was scanned again using modern high-resolution technology, scientists examined it in greater detail than ever before. The scan captured every part of the stone, every line of text, every small scratch, and every tiny gap. All of this information was then given to an AI system. At first, researchers expected the machine to simply confirm the existing translations, but instead, the AI began to notice unusual details. First, it studied the spacing between letters and symbols. In many places, the spacing looked normal, but in other places, the spaces were slightly different, almost as if they had been placed there on purpose. To human observers, these small differences had often been ignored or explained as signs of age or the style of the person who carved the stone. Next, the AI examined how the symbols were lined up. Some hieroglyphs were slightly out of line compared to the rest of the text. At first, these had been thought to be small, carving mistakes. But when the AI looked at the entire stone, it found that these slightly misplaced symbols appeared again and again in certain places. Repetition was another important clue. Some symbols appeared more often than expected. More interestingly, they often appeared in very specific positions within the text. The AI also noticed that the carvings were not completely uniform across the stone. In some areas, the cuts were deeper. In other places, the style of the strokes changed slightly. This suggested that the work might not have been done in exactly the same way throughout the stone. Each of these details seemed small when looked at on its own. But when the AI combined all of them together, a pattern began to appear. Statistical analysis suggested that these patterns were probably not random. In other words, these differences were unlikely to be simple carving mistakes or natural damage from time. This discovery began to change the way researchers thought about the Rosetta Stone. For many years, it had been seen mainly as a royal decree, a political message praising a king and granting privileges to priests. But the new analysis suggested that there might be something more within the text. Hidden inside the writing could be an additional structure or pattern that is not immediately visible. Could the Rosetta Stone contain elements that resemble a carefully arranged code? How did AI uncover a double message in ancient Egypt? Let's find out.
These 3 decrees were very important because they are very close copies to the decree that we find on the Rosetta Stone, which also helps us to reconstruct the missing parts of the Rosetta Stone, to which I'll come back later.
The hidden warnings of the Rosetta Stone. When the AI began to study the entire text of the Rosetta Stone more carefully, something very interesting started to appear. At first, the Greek and Demotic parts of the stone seemed quite simple and easy to understand. Historians had already translated them many years ago. They described a royal decree praising King Ptolemy V and announcing special privileges for the priests. On the surface, it looked like a normal political announcement, the kind rulers often used to strengthen their authority and win the support of religious leaders. But the situation began to look different when the AI examined the hieroglyphics section in a new way. Instead of simply treating the hieroglyphs as a direct translation of the same message, the AI studied how the symbols were arranged. It paid attention to their order, their spacing, and how often certain signs appeared. Gradually, a curious pattern started to emerge. Many of the symbols were not placed in the usual grammatical order expected in a simple translation. Instead, they often appeared in clusters, groups of signs arranged together as if they formed a special kind of symbol or coded unit. For a long time, scholars believed these clusters were simply decorative elements or religious imagery added to make the text more formal. However, the AI noticed that these patterns appeared too regularly to be random. Some of the clusters repeated themselves in ways that did not match the normal structure of the language. It was almost as if a second layer of meaning was hidden inside the visible text. In other words, while the message on the surface looked like a straightforward royal proclamation, there seemed to be another pattern quietly operating beneath it. The AI suggested that something similar might be happening on the Rosetta Stone. The Greek and Demotic sections functioned like clear public announcements, direct, understandable, and meant for everyone. But the hieroglyphic symbols seemed to behave differently. Their arrangement sometimes resembled a symbolic system rather than a simple translation of words. This raised a fascinating possibility. Perhaps the message on the stone operated on two different levels. One level delivered the official political statement about governance, taxes, and royal praise. The other level may have carried deeper symbolic meanings expressed through carefully arranged hieroglyphs. At this stage, the AI did not claim to have discovered a final answer. Instead, it simply opened a new direction for investigation. The Rosetta Stone, which had long been seen only as a key that helped scholars decode ancient Egyptian writing, might also be a carefully structured message containing layers of meaning. And this is where the mystery became even more intriguing. When the AI began examining the hieroglyphic text from this new perspective, some of the themes that appeared were very different from ordinary administrative language. The Greek and Demotic texts clearly spoke about royal authority and government decisions. But certain groups of hieroglyphs seemed to suggest something else entirely. These symbols appeared to describe turmoil and disorder. Instead of calm political language, they hinted at dramatic events. Some clusters seemed to refer to the collapse of order, the anger of the gods, flames falling from the sky, and rivers turning against humanity. Even more striking was the tone of these symbolic patterns. They did not read like simple descriptions of past events. The language seemed to suggest possibilities, things that could happen rather than things that already had happened. One particularly mysterious line seemed to stand out from the rest. Interpreted symbolically, it could be understood as saying, "Those who awaken the voice of stone will hear what they fear." This sentence does not need to be taken literally. Instead, it can be seen as a poetic way of warning future readers. It almost feels as if the message is directed toward people who might one day study the symbols more deeply. There were also sections of the stone where the text had been damaged or broken over time. In these places, the AI attempted to suggest possible missing words based on known language patterns. When these possible reconstructions were examined, they repeatedly pointed toward similar scenarios: the spread of disease, shortages of grain, destructive floods, and finally, the downfall that can follow human arrogance. If ancient Egyptian writers hid symbolic messages within their texts, could similar hidden patterns exist in the writings of other ancient civilizations around the world? Did ancient myths warn humanity? Let's take a closer look. Ancient myths and warnings. If we take a closer look at the stories of almost every ancient civilization, a clear pattern emerges. Nearly all of them contain tales of destruction, suffering, and the dire consequences of human arrogance. Consider, for instance, an ancient Egyptian story about the goddess Sekhmet. According to legend, when humans defied the gods, the sun god Ra sent Sekhmet to punish them. Her wrath was so fierce and uncontrollable that rivers of blood reportedly ran across the land. She was eventually tricked into stopping, sparing humanity from total annihilation. On the surface, this may sound like a dramatic myth, but its deeper meaning is strikingly clear. When the natural or divine balance is disturbed, the results can be catastrophic. A similar lesson appears in Mesopotamian tales, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, which tells of a great flood that wiped out nearly all human life. The Bible tells the story of Noah, in which a divine flood destroys the world, sparing only a few chosen individuals. Greek mythology also has its own version, the story of Deucalion and Pyrrha, where a massive flood destroys most of humanity. Across continents and eras, these flood stories echo the same warning. When balance is lost, destruction follows. Even civilizations that thought about time differently carried this idea. The Mayans viewed history as cycles, periods of creation and destruction. Their calendar marks moments when the world changes, sometimes violently, through natural disasters. Similarly, Hindu teachings describe the yugas, Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga, where the end of each cycle signifies societal decline, followed by a renewal. These are not strict prophecies, but rather subtle hints. Imbalance leads to upheaval, and eventually, restoration occurs. One theory is that these ancient tales were more than entertainment. They were survival guides. Without scientific language or modern documentation, early humans passed on their experiences with floods, droughts, epidemics, and wars through storytelling. Stories were easier to remember than facts, and so they became a way to teach lessons and warn future generations. When we look across civilizations, a clear pattern appears. Human arrogance or imbalance triggers nature's wrath, leading to disaster. It feels less like mystical prophecy and more like a collective memory etched into the minds of generations. Perhaps this is a universal message that keeps resurfacing, taking different forms across time and cultures. So, if you love uncovering history's secrets and exploring the hidden truths behind AI, make sure to subscribe because the next discovery could completely change the way we see the world.